Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. In this lesson here, we're just going to be speaking about the actual format of Al-Ajrumiyyah. So how is Al-Ajrumiyyah formatted? How is the method, the book itself formatted? Because that will help you really better understand how to study it and what exactly you're studying when you're studying the method, what are the different sections that make it up, and more specifically because Al-Nahu, grammar, the science of grammar is a science that is tarakumiyah. It's a science that builds on each other, or it's built on each other. So if you want to understand the end of Al-Ajrumiyyah, you first need to make sure you understood the beginning of it. So every single chapter of Al-Ajrumiyyah in any book of grammar it's always built on itself. It's always built on the other part. Okay, it's very similar to math in the sense that you can never understand multiplications if you don't understand additions. And you can never understand division if you don't understand multiplication and additions. So it's similar in that sense. You're never going to understand the chapter of Al-Arab if you don't understand the chapter of Al-Kalam. And you're not going to understand the chapter of Al-Af'al and Al-Asma if you didn't understand the chapter of Al-Arab. So you have to make sure you understand every single chapter and what exactly are the goals of every single chapter before you go on to the next chapter to make sure you fully understood those goals and fully achieved them, or else you're going to have holes, and those holes are going to lead you to misunderstand the method. And that's why a lot of people have difficulty with grammar and also with math, to go off topic. So how is Matn al-Ajrumiyyah formatted? So it's formatted to pretty much 4 different sections. You have the section that talks about al-kalam, speech, the section that talks about al-Arab, which is pretty much case ending and the declension system. Then you have a chapter that after that talks about al-Af'al, verbs. Then finally you have a chapter that talks about al-Asma, the nouns. Okay. And as you can see, I mean, the chapter of Al-Kalam is about 1 page, and Al-Arab is about 4 pages, Al-Af'al is about 3 pages, then the rest of the books are just talking about Al-Asma. So Al-Asma is actually the biggest chapter, but the most important one is the chapter of Al-Arab. That's the one that is really the foundation of Al-Nahu, inshallah. So let's try to break these sections down now. Al-Kalam is made up of 3 parts, or in the chapter of Al-Kalam, the Ibn Ajrum, he pretty much addresses 3 different things. He addresses the definition of al-kalam. What is the definition of speech in the Arabic language? What's meant by Arabic speech? He defines that. Then after that, he goes over the 3 different parts of speech. So al-kalam is made up of 3 different parts. Then finally, he talks about the different signs for every single parts of speech. So Arabic speech, as we're going to cover, is made up of 3 parts. It's made up of nouns and verbs and particles, huruf. And every single one of those things have certain signs for you to be able to know which one it is. So if this is a noun, there's certain signs to know whether this is a noun or not a noun, or whether this is a verb, and so on and so forth. And he goes into details. So those are the 3 things that you should make sure that you get out of that chapter: the definition, the parts of speech, and the different signs. Once you fully understood those 3 subsections, you've understood the chapter of al-kalam, speech. Going on to the next chapter is the chapter of al-Arab. The chapter of al-Arab, it talks about what is al-Arab. So the first subtopic is that the definition of al-Arab, what exactly is meant here by the concept of case ending or declension system, if you will. Then after that, he goes over the 4 different types of al-Arab. Then after that, he goes over the different signs for every single type of al-Arab. And this is the most complex one. The third subpoint here, which are the different signs of al-Arab, that is the chapter and that is a section that most students find very confusing, because there's a lot of different signs and there's a lot of things to understand. There's a lot to cover, and to master those different signs and where they're attributed can be a bit complex at first. So I highly, highly recommend that anybody who says Al-Ajrumiyyah, make sure that he understands this 3rd subsection here, which is the subsection that talks about the different signs of Arab, Alamat and Arab. If you've understood those 3 things, you've understood the concept of Al-Arab, you've understood the chapter of Arab. After that, we go over Al-Af'al, verbs. So in the subsection of verbs, the Sheikh goes over the different types of verbs. So there are 3 different types of verbs in the Arabic language, of course. Then after that, he goes over the different things that are going to make the verb, the mudari' verb, mansub. The different things that are going to make one of the 3 types of verbs mansub. What is mansub? You have to understand the chapter of Arab to understand that. So you're never going to understand this chapter, the 3rd chapter, if you don't understand the chapter of Arab, because the rest of these 2 chapters, or these 2 chapters, they're just a further explanation for the concept of Arab and the different signs of Arab. So I was going to explain to you in the 2nd subsection the different types of elements, the different types of particles, if you will, that are going to make the fi'l mudari', a specific type of verb, mansub. What is mansub? That's what's explained in the blue section. And there are 10 different things according to the mu'allif, according to the author, that makes the verb mansub. Then after that, in the third subsection, he goes over the things that will make the fi'l mudari' majzoom. Majzoom means pretty much the verb in a general sense ends with a sukoon. And according to the Shaykh, there are 10 different particles that are going to make the verb majzoomun. That is the chapter of al-af'al. Once you finish the chapter of al-af'al, it's about 3 pages, you go into the chapter of al-asma, nouns. So one of the 3 parts of speech. In the chapter of nouns, he goes over the 6 different types of nouns that are going to be marfu'. Marfu' pretty much means dhamma at the end. Then it's going to cover the 14 different nouns that are mansub, and then the 3 different nouns that are majrur. And then that's the end of the matan. That's it. So these 2 chapters, as you can clearly see, are all based on the chapter of al-Arab. Because what's marfu', what's mansub, what's majrur, and what's majzoom, all these are covered in the 2nd chapter. So that is the format of Al-Ajrumiyyah. And these are the different things that you should make sure that when you finish Al-Ajrumiyyah, you're able to answer, you're able to understand, and you're able to address. I hope this video was clear. If there's any questions, anybody can leave a comment below. And thank you for listening.